Hi there. This video is going to go a little more deeply into the QQE indicator and the signals that it creates. First of all, I'm going to enlarge this a little bit so we get a better view of the QQE. Now, like in the last video, we've determined that this signal line, which is this dotted line, the RSI line, which is this thick blue line, have to be in the right order for a trade to take. Now, if we're going short, if we're going down, we want the main line to be under the signal line. And if we're going long, we want this RSI line to be over the signal line. Now that is the first part of how the signal works, but the actual signal itself happens when we get the RSI line crossing either above or below this 50 line, this dotted black 50 line here. Now that is the actual trade signal. Now we're going to look at this instance right here. We get a close above. This is a signal to go long, but then we get a drop down below. Now this is not a signal to go short because this signal line is in the wrong place. So once this signal line is underneath like this and the RSI line is over, we're only looking for a long entry. Here we get a re-entry. This is called a secondary signal. We get the initial signal right here, and then the secondary signal is right here. This is also a valid entry signal. Here we get a close below the 50 line, and the RSI line is below the signal line, so this is a valid entry to go short right in this area here. So let's look at another example. Here we have a valid entry to go short here because the RSI line crosses below the signal line and then it crosses below this 50 line. Now this is a good short signal, but then we get it closing above. It crosses above the 50 line. But because of the position of the signal line, this is not a signal to go long. We'll wait for it to come back below. This coming back below the 50 line, again, is another valid entry signal to go short. Let's look at some more examples here. Here, we have some chop in the market. We'll explain that in a little bit, but here we have a valid short signal and not a valid long signal. A valid short signal as it drops below the 50 line. Now over here we have, this could be taken as a long signal. I wouldn't take it. I don't suggest you do either because it is not 100% certain. This touches the 50 line and it looks like it maybe crosses, but it's not enough for me. I want a nice, clean, unquestionable cross. And it crosses, if this was a cross above, crosses below, which is not as short. But then we get a long signal right here. And this is a valid re-entry. This is a secondary QQE signal. Then we get a nice signal to the short side as the signal line and the RSI line flip positions and closes below, crosses below the 50 line. And then we get a long signal here as the signal line drops below and the RSI drops above or pops above the 50 line. Here we get another, this is a nice short signal here, but not a long signal. We've got the signal line over the RSI, which means we're just looking for short trades. So we get a short signal here, but not a long signal here. Right. Now we're going to look at something called a stale signal. Let's find one here. Okay, a stale signal is when you get a signal and all the action happens either above or below. Generally, the signals will do this. This is a nice, valid, long entry, but then we get the cross of the RSI below the signal line. Now this is a short signal, but because it didn't cross below the 50 line, it is not an actual entry signal. And then we get a cross back above again. It flips back over. Now this is what is called a stale entry signal. You can take this signal as an entry signal, but generally this happens at the very end of the move. There is going to be very little steam left. This is more for scalping. If you wanted to get just a few extra pips, this is a stale signal and is not as strong as an actual cross of the 50 line. And again, we get one here. This is a stale signal to go along. In this case, it worked out okay, and it does from time to time, but generally this happens towards the very end of the move. Let's find another one here. This, see right here, is another stale signal to go short. We get the initial signals are here. We get this is the actual signal to go short. We get a secondary signal here as it pops above and then back down below. This is a secondary signal. We could enter the trade here. We could add to a position here. But then as we go, the trade progresses. The two lines cross each other. Now we've got a buy scenario in the short zone. And then it flips back to a short trigger, a short signal in the short zone under the 50 line, and this is a stale signal. Now let's take a look, see where does that actually happen. It happens on this long candle. So if you were to enter the market on this candle, as you can see, that's the end of the move. There is no more room left to go short. If you had entered as it closed, you might have snagged a few pips in a scalping sort of scenario, but the move itself is over. This was the long move, and the stale signal was the end that you probably would have lost. Let's look for another one. This is also a stale signal. Everything is all below the 50 line, and it happens late. It works out. This one worked out nicely, but again, it doesn't always do it. I suggest you back test this and see for yourself. Let's find another one. This is a stale signal also. All the action happens below. It doesn't flip over. They don't drag themselves through the 50 line. Everything is below the 50 line when this happens. This one doesn't work out too badly though. Again, it's something you have to test and see for yourself. Here's another one. Another signal, another stale signal. This one worked out famously. And here's another one right here. And that brings us to the close of the current chart, the current session. Okay, I'm going to make another video re-explaining exactly the same stuff. I'm going to try to do it in a slightly different way. I'm going to do it with a different currency pair. This is with a US dollar, Swiss franc. I want to drill these home to you. I want to make sure that you understand exactly what it is I'm looking at. Entry signals, stale signals, secondary entry signals. So I'm going to make a second video. It'll be just like this one, but hopefully I will mention something, or I'll say something that is a little bit different than I said in this video, just to give you a better idea, or just another crack at an explanation. Okay, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the second QQE video.